and you can see that it's working a treat. Look at that texture. That is absolutely incredible. Right, we are back. Many of you tuned in and saw in hashtag 272, we come up with this incredible new way for resin art using hairspray. Gives an awesome textured effect. Most of you have seen the video already. For those who haven't, go and check it out. But we are going to, I did mention, I touched on this in the previous video, we are going to be trying something. I don't really do stuff like this on my channel. I tend to keep it small. Jewelry size pieces and a random coaster here and there. But we are going to try this lizard mold from Let's Resin. And I'm also going to show you, I did this piece the day after, at the weekend. Was it the weekend? It could have been, no, it's Friday. So as soon as I'd filmed this one, I then thought, oh, what about stencils? And I know lots of you have asked in the comments for me to do a video on the stencils. So I'm gonna show you just how well it can work with stencils also. So for a 3D mold like this, as mentioned, if I go and spray my hairspray on this 3D mold, especially when it hits the sides, it's going to run down and puddle. So I have a theory, I have an idea. What I'm going to do is start off with a light misting. Now I did show in that previous video 272 that I just pushed the nozzle down so it spurted out the hairspray. But again, if I do that on this mold, it's going to run down. What my theory is, if I give it a light spray all over, let that dry, that should then create like a structure for the bigger droplets to cling on to, so they don't run as fast, so they hold on to those tiny droplets. It should work and it should make sense. So I'm going to begin, I don't want to do his feet. I'm gonna keep the feet plain. I'm just gonna put a bit of tape over each one, just because that's the way I want it to be. So I'm gonna take my hairspray. The tape's really not sticking to this silicone. And I'm holding the can from quite a distance, and I'm giving the whole thing a quick spray. I'll try and get you a close up. So it's really fine. You can see on the outside of the mold better than what you can on the inside. A very fine mist. I'm hoping that my theory is going to work. I'm just going to let that dry for 10 to 15 minutes. Actually, I do need to turn my mold and get inside the head. That'll do. And you know me, I always kind of make things up as I go along. So I haven't let that fully dry. I've just sprayed some hairspray in this mixing pot. What I'm going to do now, before it dries, is apply some bigger droplets, because it makes sense to do this part now. So I'm just going to dab on some bigger droplets, just whilst I've got it like this, before I turn it. It just makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm just going to go over the whole bit. The whole bit? The whole piece. I also decided to just do the feet anyway. So I just gave that another quick spray. It's really tricky to see the effect at the moment, but it's pretty much dry. So now what I can do is just angle the mold, prop it up, use the lid maybe, and then just get some bigger droplets around the sides. Let that dry, turn it, do the same on the other side. Again, I'm just going to do that with the hairspray that is in my mixing cup. This again just prevents it from running down into the bottom. Now that is fully dry, I'm going to go in with some chameleon flakes. I'm using the Let's Resin Fuchsia for this one. And then we're just going to top that with some black resin. Again, you need to make sure the hairspray is fully dry. And you can, like I mentioned in that previous video, you can be quite, you know, you can rub this quite hard it's not gonna pull off the hairspray. And you can see that it's working a treat, leaving those patches of hairspray completely clear. If your hairspray isn't dry, we've seen it, I showed you, it will just become messy. So I am just going to spend a bit of time going over the whole piece. Again, I don't normally do big pieces like this, but I am super excited to see how this one comes out. What I'm doing now is I'm just going over and just burnishing with my brush, and then just blowing out any excess larger flakes. You don't have to go crazy with flakes, guys. I know I've seen lots of people kind of really piling the flakes on. It's all about the burnishing. It really does spread the flakes quite far. Doesn't really take that much, but with molds like this you really need to get underneath and in all the nooks and crannies. And I haven't got any of the black Let's Resin epoxy, so I am just going to use my collab resin and just mix in some black mica powder for that. Look at that magic. Look at that texture. That is absolutely incredible. Can't wait to see this. Now for the stencil, again these are from Let's Resin. You've seen me use these before on the channel. There is quite an array of different stencils. You want to pick the right kind of stencil. I mean, I don't think it would work. It could work with a butterfly stencil. I don't know. It would definitely work with like octopus sea stuff. But I wouldn't go using it with something like this. It could be different, but I mean the tree one that I did, it kind of added texture to the leaves and to the tree trunk. I remembered the word tree trunk this time. But it was just to test the idea, and it did turn out really sharp. So I'm going to be using a frog, but I think I want multiple frogs in there, but it's going to be tricky because that's square and the coaster is round. So all I'm going to do is just use a coaster mold that come from that mold to just mark out the circular shape, not too close to the stencil, but just bring it up a little bit so I'm not cutting into that stencil, and just mark it. I'm just going to use a pin and then cut that with some scissors, just so I can place that around the mold a little bit better. As always, massive shout out to my channel members, anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks. Thank you very much, and to all my subs. So you'll see now that fits quite snugly. I'm gonna aim for 4, but I don't think 4 are gonna fit. So I'm gonna start with 2 facing each other, and then if I can fit 4 in, I will, but it's just to show you how it works. Now, when I made that tree one, it was using a stencil that fits inside, so I could spray my hairspray, wait for it to dry, then remove my stencil, which left only oh dear, only left the design. There, I didn't need to worry about the blank spaces. Now with this one, if I go and spray that, it's going to cover the whole thing, so I do need to protect the clear areas of the mold, if that makes sense. That'll do it. It's just a make do, just a budget. And again, I'm just going to start with a light spray from a distance with the hairspray, just to add those small droplets, and then let that dry. No, you can tell I'm making this up as I go along, can't you? I'm going to add the larger droplets now as well. Maybe they're a bit too large. I don't care. You could do this however you want. I suppose you could also use like a stick to pull in those droplets. Is that working? I can't see, the phone's in the way. I think it's working. No, we'll just do it the way that I said. Use the stick to get in smaller droplets. Do it however you want. But what you don't want to do is add any droplets close to the stencil, because as soon as that touches that stencil, it's going to work its way underneath, which you'd need to clean up with like a pointed swab with some alcohol on it. But we don't want additional work, do we? Okay, so for this one, I'm going to keep the stencil there. I'm hoping this works. I've only done this with powders. I haven't done this with flakes. So I'm just going to brush over the whole design again before moving the stencil on. Now I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of cleaning up. I'm hoping that I can just peel that away. I can brush it off to the side to get off any excess, and then I can move the stencil to another area and just repeat the whole process. And because I don't want the tape touching that frog, I didn't think that part through. That should hopefully protect it. Right, I managed to get the 4 in, but they're holding hands. It's not really a big problem, is it? But it's pretty bang on. I mean, you've got a really interesting kind of pattern in the middle. So now, I mean, I'm pondering with the idea of spraying again and then brushing the rest with another chameleon flake. Or do I just keep it black? I don't know, because I want the frogs to stand out. I think it's going to be, you could do so much with this, but I think, I really don't know. Let me have a think for 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm just going to fill it black. Now my mold is very, very dull, so I'm probably going to have to top coat it afterwards. Now, I'm keeping it black because that took so much time, because I had to wait for each one to dry before I could move on. With the big tree stencil, I mean, it was quick and easy because it was just spraying it, waiting for it to dry and peeling it off. But with this, it's different because there's 4. So yeah, I'm just going to mix up some black epoxy and just fill this and the lizard, the gecko, up, and I'll see you for the demold. Okay, we are fully cured and ready to go. As always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment if you haven't subbed. It is free, there's no cost to subscribe. Hit that button for me. I'm going to start with a coaster. Remember what I said, the mold is dull. I don't know why I didn't just use a different one, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to top coat it with some UV just to show you what it would look like. It's totally not my thing. Neither of these really, but I just wanted to show you what you can do. Watch what happens when I top coat this though. It's really going to pop. And there you have it. Again, I rushed the top coat. You can see those colour switches between the green and the purple. It's not brilliant, but it's just to show you. It's much better if you just use one stencil. It's a lot quicker as well, because you can just spray it, wait, peel it, and then do your thing. With this, I kind of wasn't the best way to show you, but it's still pretty cool. Right, now this is what we're kind of waiting for. Again, totally not my thing, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to peel it out the mould off camera. Nobody wants to sit and watch me peeling all these toes out. Again, I can't see any marks on the mould, but just bear it in mind that it could leave some spray marks, but I can't see any on this mould. But again, it's a good enough technique, hopefully, we'll see in a second with this, that we could spray this every use to get better effects. Right, you can see that really shiny colouring. Oh, nervous. Wow. Such a good colour to use on this as well. I need to do something with the eyes, but oh look, I put one of the droplets. Looks like it's looking up. A shame I didn't do that on the other side. I should have done that intentionally, because that does look good. I'm going to have to paint one that side now just to make it matching. This is a one-eyed, but you can see that really fine from that first fine spray. Really epic texture. That's crazy. So I haven't got any run marks. So I think my theory, the colour shift is incredible. My theory of giving it a light spray, letting it dry, kind of allowed the bigger droplets. I know I turned the mould, but I still think it made a difference by holding the droplets where I put them. And that's crazy. I think I'm going to give this to my son. He can put it on the wall. So there you go, 3D molds and stencils in one video. That is crazy, that texture though. It's perfect for stuff like this. Right, I hope you enjoyed that one. I will see you for the next one. Bye for now.